Folks, Philadelphia is rolling back its longstanding diversity goals for city contracts. For nearly 40 years, the city aimed for at least 25% of contracting dollars to go to minority, women, or disabled-owned businesses. And at one point, city leaders pushed for that number to reach 35%. But the mayor's office now says it is no longer pursuing those targets. The city's top lawyer said the changes comes as a new federal legal precedent that prohibits the setting of contracting goals based on race and gender, and that the city must ensure public funds are not used to promote, reinforce, or perpetuate discrimination. Now, here's what I'm not understanding here. Mateo, the Supreme Court has not ruled on contracting. So this Trump anti-DEI executive order, that does not apply, let's be real clear, that does not apply to cities and states. Now, if you're talking federal dollars that a city receives, different conversation. What you have here, you have, frankly, these conservative groups that are now suing cities, trying to stop these programs, and many of these folks are afraid of being sued. So therefore, they're rolling these programs back. That's what's going on.
You know, what you have here is a reign of terror. It is the federalization, or I'm sorry, the localization of a federal trend. I know I talked about Project 2025 earlier tonight, but I'll talk about it again. This is Project 2025 in action. It is about rolling back equity. This is what Project 2025 is also about. It's about many other things, but it's about rolling back equity. Philadelphia talks, and the mayor talked about the legal risks of DEI. What I'd like for people to start talking about are the legal risks of removing DEI and the fact that the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, which no court can take away, no executive can take away. The Equal Protection Clause doesn't just prohibit discrimination. People need to understand that. It demands that governments address the effects, the pregress effects of past discrimination. And DEI programs are aiming at doing that, and removing that is actually a violation of the constitutional right encapsulated in the Equal Protection Clause. And it's the result of the pressure of the federal government and its sort of tentacular realities at local level that is getting these cities, these mayors, these municipalities to react in a manner that eventually 15, 20 years from now, we're going to realize is going to be insanely detrimental to our society. It is immediately to minorities. It will be extremely detrimental to our society at large.
This is what I don't understand. This is the Philadelphia Inquirer. The new standards are part of a broader dismantling of race and gender-conscious policy in city procurement, a process that could affect contracts to historically disadvantaged firms worth more than $370 million annually. Solicitor Renee Garcia, the city's top lawyer, said in a statement that the change in Philadelphia's practice comes as new federal legal precedent prohibits the setting of contracting goals based on race and gender, and that the city must ensure public funds, quote, are not used to promote, reinforce, or perpetuate discrimination. The goal of the revised program is to create an environment in which all businesses can thrive and contribute to the local economy. I'm sorry, what federal legal precedent is she talking about? The Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action that only applied to colleges. Now, what Republicans have done, they've tried to suggest that the Supreme Court affirmative action ruling applies to everything. That's not true, Mateo.
It is not true, but I guarantee you that the federal government is going to take a very broad approach to this interpretation, just like they did. We talked about earlier. They're doing with ICE targeting based on color of the skin or accent. Municipalities are paralyzed by the fact that they survive off of these funds, and they know that the federal government and their local assets are coming after them at one point or another, so they're being preemptive. There are conversations that are happening between people in municipalities, I know this for a fact, that are only happening via phone because people are afraid that the government is going to find out that they sent an email, even now that it is legal to say certain things, and will retroactively punish them. This is where we're living now.
Yep. Here's the thing, Omekongo, a State Inquirer story. Last month, Mayor Parker of Philadelphia, her administration settled a lawsuit brought by firms represented by the Trump-aligned American First legal nonprofit that claimed language related to workforce diversity in the city's vendor contracts was illegal. As part of the settlement, the city agreed to pay $417,000 in attorney's fees and clarify the diversity benchmarks in its project agreements are aspirational goals, not mandatory quotas. What did I say earlier this year, Omekongo? This is a Trump, MAGA, GOP effort to defund Black America.
Oh, absolutely. And I see it as somebody who speaks across the country on issues relating to inclusion. Once that Supreme Court decision came out, just like you said, it was focused on colleges. But in the corporate spaces I was at, that I go to, people are talking about changing the languages. In nonprofit organizations, people are talking about changing the language. And now you see with the city government, this is a classic example of what Tim Snyder talks about in his book on tyranny, about obeying in advance. And at some point, people have to decide that enough is enough. How many people are willing to really push forward and fight this? You're sitting here talking about it. This was not part of the Supreme Court decision. Mateo's talking about the legal challenges as it relates to this. People have to continue fighting and stop settling, because at the end of the day, they have solid cases. It's almost like some of these issues we see with the media, just caving into Trump, like ABC and the like. We have to continue fighting. The elections of the last couple of weeks have shown that Americans are embracing diversity and want diverse voices and diverse experiences to reign in this country, as we were on that progress of doing. Of course, we're never perfect with it, but if cities like these continue to cave in advance, if state governments continue to cave in advance, then Trump doesn't have to lift a finger, and people are going to continue to move in his favor for him. This isn't in Project 2025. People obeying in advance, that's not in the project. The Project 2025 is their aggressive behavior to get rid of anything that represents DEI. It doesn't mean that we have to just bend over and take it just like that.
Story here, Avis. Philadelphia faced its own adverse ruling last year when the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit sided with contractors who sued the city over its bidding rules, leading the city to settle with the plaintiffs last month. The firms, again represented by attorneys from America Legal First Legal, founded by Trump advisor Stephen Miller, claimed that the city violated the Constitution by forcing bidders to sign agreements that included diverse workforce goals. The case was not explicitly about awarding contracts to diverse business owners, but the court's opinion, authored by Judge Paul Mady, cleared the way for contractors to bring claims challenging the city's policies related to racial and gender equity as potentially in violation of the Constitution's, get this, Mateo just talked about it, guarantee equal protection. So, Avis, what these white folks are doing, and I have been saying this, they are literally using the civil rights laws. They are using the 1866 Civil Rights Act. They're using the Equal Protection Clause that was put there to help black folks. They're now saying, oh no, this is discriminating against whites. That's what they're doing.
Exactly what they're using. And they're also using the methods of the legal actions that were used during the civil rights movement in terms of having a legal strategy that is broad and meant to sort of chip by chip tear down different practices with the goal of bringing it to the Supreme Court to bring across broader change. We are seeing that tactic now being used against us. But at the end of the day, what they're also looking to do here, this is a full frontal attack on Black economic power. It's really interesting to see what these folks are doing. On the one hand, we started off the show and we talked about what's going on all across this nation with regards to the ICE raids. That's how they're going after the Latino community. How they're going after the Black community is with our economic power. And this is one of the first things they did on the very first day he was in office, the first 2 days he was in office. It was all about rolling back those civil rights advancements that, quite frankly, took us years, decades to get in place just to have one small iota of fairness. And for anybody, I know we're going to get to Pharrell in a minute, but for anybody who thinks that the situation was fair to begin with, or is even, or they must be smoking crack. Are you kidding me? The entire reason why those laws were needed in the first place is because you had a system that was bastardized from the beginning, that was specifically only open to a very small group of individuals, no matter how unqualified they were. And if you want to see some of the most qualified, I hate to use that term because only we have to prove that we're qualified. But let me just tell you, the people who have fought so long to get here are people that belong there, should have been there, if not for the practices of discrimination that we've had in this country for years. So to see this happen at the city level, after we know what's going on now at the federal level, as well as what's happened in corporations all across this nation, every little place that Black business owners, for example, could have gone now in order to get one iota of fairness, from the federal level, from corporations, now looking at Philadelphia and other cities, they are just chipping away all the different spaces with the goal of completely undermining Black economic power.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.